Hey pre-algebra, you ready for a good hard lesson? I hope everyone is saying, yay, I am. This lesson is going to be a 2-day lesson because this video is going to be pretty long because there's a lot of details in measures of variability. And it's not necessarily really hard calculations, but it's keeping really nice, neat, careful work. And so I'm trying a new video system this way, so hopefully this doesn't delete. And you'll need a piece of paper and a pencil. So we're going to take really careful notes today, and then you're going to maybe watch another video on this, and then tomorrow you'll have an assignment. So measures of variability are another way that we can analyze data. So we're going to be given data. Our data might be in the form of just a list of numbers. It might be in the form of a table. It might be in the form of a graph or like a line plot. So we're going to take numbers and we're going to split them up into different categories. And so I think the easiest way to do this is to, instead of giving all the definitions first, is working through it and then kind of defining the different parts, the different terms of measures of variability. Some books call it measures of variation. So get out a piece of paper and then let's try a few. This is a good one. So you can hopefully see here that the U.S. Summer Olympic silver medals, so from 1976 to 2008, and I'll move my head. And so what we're going to do is find the measures of variability for the data in the table. Bonus point, and if you send this to me in an email, why is there a 0 for one of those U.S. Summer Olympic silver medals? Is it because just no one got second place? So look it up. If you send me an email with your name and a sentence reason, then I'll give you a bonus point somewhere. Okay, and I'll think about where I'll give that. So let's look at this data. And so what we're going to do, the first thing you're always going to want to do is, so basically measures of variability are breaking down all of the data points into sections. So we're going to have a halfway point. We're going to have a first quarter. We're going to have a third quarter. And those are called quartiles. And this will become important when we actually graph using box and whisker plots, which I used to hate. I used to hate box and whisker plots, but I've grown to really like them. I think they're kind of cool. So what we'll do here is, so on the homework, it's going to say find the measures of variability. So you need to find the median. That's your first thing you need to find. Then you need to find your quartile 1, your quartile 3, your interquartile range, and then finally you end with range. So we have 5 things we're going to find. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is organize these data points from least to greatest. So I like giving myself a nice amount of space. So my smallest is 0. Then it looks like it's 24 and 31. And then I have 32, 34, 35, 38, 39, and 61. Okay, so I'm going to write these data points. And if you just want to watch this one, that's fine. And then we can try the next one together. So we're finding the median. The first thing you want to do is find the median. Then we're going to find quartile 1 and quartile 3. Then we're going to find the range. Oh, then we're going to find the interquartile range. So the IQR. Then we're going to find the range, and oh my goodness, I almost forgot something, but it's really important. We're going to see if there is an outlier, and there's actually a formula for that. So like I said, this is going to be a longer lesson, but you're not going to have homework to do with this today. So our median. So we have an odd number of numbers. So I'm going to do 9, because there's 9 numbers up there, 3 by 3, right? 9 divided by 2, which is 4.5. And then I'm going to circle my 5th number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 4 data points above and 4 below. So my median is 34. Median is like, so I think, usually we have basketball season going right now. It's March, right? So in the NBA season, they have quarters, 4 quarters. In college basketball, they just have 2 halves, right? They just have a halftime. So this tells us halftime. But now let's think if we're in NBA. We have to find the quarters. So what you do here, and this is going to be really specific, is if there's an exact middle point, to find our first quarter, we don't, because we can't include it on both sides, we just look at the median of these numbers and the median of those numbers. So the median of these 4 numbers is going to be 24 and 31. So what you could do there is then we have to have an exact point. You can't write 24 and 31 for a quartile. So you do 24 plus 31 divided by 2. You get 27.5. You could have probably done that mentally too. So we get 27.5. So the first quartile would be 27 and a half. So then we need to find the median of those 4 numbers. Well, it would be the middle of these 2, which would be halfway in between those would be 38.5. We could have done 38 plus 39 divided by 2, but that we could really see mentally. Then, to find the interquartile range, that is just going to be Q3 minus Q1. Q3 minus Q1 would be 38.5, and you're going to say, you should have done that mentally, Mrs. Hewer. Oh, yep, I should have. The interquartile range would be 38.5 minus 27.5, which would be 11. Now, the all over range here would be 61, so the highest number, they call it the upper extreme, minus, and this is all in your book, the lower extreme. So 61 minus 0, which would give us 61. Now, I look at this, and so an outlier, so let's define outlier. An outlier is defined as a data point that is outside or more than 1.5 times the value of the interquartile range beyond the quartiles. Oh, that sounds easy. No, it's a number that's way out there, either too low or too high. But in math, so, in years past, you would have said, oh yeah, 0 is the outlier because it's kind of way far away. But there's actually a way we can tell for sure, is 0 an outlier? And these steps are in your book. It's on example 3 on page 442. However, it's these kind of tricky steps. So what you do to see if there's an outlier, I'm going to move this real quick, is I'm going to move this down so we have some space. Let me delete that. Is you find the interquartile range. We know our interquartile range is 11. You multiply that. So you do the IQR. I'm going to do this in red so it's easy to see. You're going to do the IQR times 1.5. So in this case, we're going to do 11 times 1.5, which is 16.5. So we did 11, right? Then, to see if something is an outlier, so then what you do is there's 2 steps. You have to see if there's a lower outlier and you have to see if there's an upper outlier. The way that you do that is then you take this number. This is not the right example here, so I'm kind of looking at the wrong one, but it doesn't matter. So you take Q1. So then you do Q1 minus this number, which would be 16.5. Then you do Q3 plus this number, which is 16.5. So in this case, we would get 27.5 minus 16.5, which would actually give us 11. And then we do 38.5 plus 16.5. So we do 38.5 plus 16.5, which is 55. So we can look at this, and we might have been like, I'm not sure if there are any outliers. Well, there are actually 2 outliers, because there's a number below 11 and there's a number above 55. So if there's a number below this or above that, then they are outliers. So both the numbers 0 would be an outlier and 61 would be an outlier. So we actually have 2 outliers. A lot of times you won't have any outliers, but in this case you have 2. So we'll try that again. So we're gonna go through one more, at least one more together. So let's see how many are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, this is good. So let me make this a little bit bigger for you. So this table shows the calories burned by each activity. We're going to find the measures of variability to describe the data. So this is the number of calories burned for 30 minutes of each of these exercises. So swimming, soccer, racquetball. Who plays racquetball? But not very often. Football, basketball, tennis, downhill skiing, and volleyball. So the first thing we want to do is organize them from least to greatest. So I'm going to do that first. And then what we're going to do from there is we're going to find the median. We're going to find Q1, Q3, interquartile range, and is there an outlier? Okay, so we're going to find each of those. If you want to, you can, well, don't pause it yet because this one's a little bit different. So you're going to get to practice this in a minute. How long have I been talking? Oh, okay, 12 and a half minutes, so not too bad. So we're going to organize those from least to greatest. I'm going to move this down a little bit. Move this here. So we have 84, 150, 183, 210, 222, 228, 234, and 261. So we have an even number of data points. So that means we're going to have two middle numbers, right? 8 divided by 2 is 4. So we're going to circle our 4th and 5th numbers for our median. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, okay? So then you have to find the median, the mean of these, okay? So the mean, think if you can do it mentally, of 210 and 222. You could use your calculator, but you should say, oh, the median is going to be 216, okay? Now, in this case, we have 2 medians. So if you have 2 medians that we will find the average of, then when you're finding Q1, you have to include, last time we didn't include either. We didn't include either side with this. We just did that, these numbers and these numbers. This will make more sense if you follow along with your book. But if you have 2 median numbers, you'll find the first quartile of the first half and the third quartile of the second half. So here now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. So my middle of the 4 is going to be these 2. Again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to have the same on both sides. So then we have these 2. If it was 5 on both sides, we'd have a middle number, which would be awesome. But this time we have another that we have to average. So I'm going to do 150 plus 183 divided by 2, which is 166.5. So my Q1 is 166.5. my Q3 is going to be, okay, that's 6 away, so it's going to be 231. So then my 231 calories would be my Q3. Hopefully you could still see me. It went black for a second. So it's getting bored. Hopefully you're not getting too bored. This is a hard lesson, but remember, just, push through it. So now, interquartile range. That's nice and easy. We're just going to do, hold on one sec. 231 minus 166.5, which is 64.5. Remember, it's just Q3 minus Q1. So it's 64.5. Then my range. My range is my upper extreme minus my lower extreme. So I'm going to do 261 minus 84, which is 177. So my range would be 177 calories. That's how much all of these activities range. Now, it doesn't appear that there's an outlier. Everything's fairly close, but so there's not any totally extreme value like there was on the Summer Olympic ones. However, outliers we got to plug it into that formula. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Q1 times 1.5 and then Q3 times 1.5. So I'm going to do IQR times 1.5. So I'm going to do 64.5 times 1.5. I get 96.75. So then I have to subtract it from Q1 and see if there's anything outside of that. I'm going to add it to Q3 and see if there's anything outside of that. Well, 166 minus 96, so is going to be in that range, right? If I do 96.75. If I do 166.5 minus 96.75, I get 69.75. That's lower than that, so I'm okay. No outlier on the lower end. So let's see if there's an outlier on the upper end. I can see right away that there's not going to be, but I'm going to do 231 plus 96.75, and I get 327.75. This is within that range. So our guess on if there was an outlier was no. Everything's fairly close. Nothing's crazy out there. That's what an outlier is. So there would be no outliers, or your answer for that would be none, okay? So let's see here. Oh, another thing. You could actually, like I said, get all of our measures of variability through something like this. This would be called a line plot, also sometimes called a dot plot, which makes sense. There's dots on it, right? So this is the study time in minutes for students. And so, daily amount of time that kids study. Some kids are only studying 10 minutes. Some kids are studying almost 40 minutes. So you could actually find all of the measures of variability. So a couple questions I want to ask you, and I want you to answer these. And then we'll see how we do. Just don't worry about the ages of this lady's grandchildren. Well, let's just look at the top one. So, how many students were surveyed for their study time? How many students were surveyed? Let's see if we can make sense of what this dot plot was. Okay, hopefully you're counting. 15, right? 15 kids. Each of those dots represents a kid. So what would be our median? What number would we circle for our median? If there were 15 kids, which number would we circle? Oh, 8th? The 8th number, correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So our median would be 22. So then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Numbers below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 above. So what number are we going to circle for Q1 and Q3? There's 7. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So we're going to circle the fourth number. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So our Q1 would be 13 minutes. Our Q3 would be 29 minutes. So we can find a lot of things here. What would be our range? Or how about interquartile range? What would be our interquartile range? 29 minus 13, right? Which would be 16. What would be our total range? Our range of all of the data set. 38 minus 10, good, which would be 28 or 28 minutes. Would there be an outlier? You could find that out too by doing the IQR times 1.5, adding it to this, subtracting it from this, and seeing if there's anything outside of those points. I doubt it. Nothing's too far out. The only one I'm worried about would be that 38 there. How many kids studied for more than 30 minutes? How many kids studied for more than 30 minutes? Good. 3. This kid, and this kid. Good job. They studied for more than 30 minutes. That's awesome. So you can see we can get a lot of information just based on a few dots. There's 15 dots and just some words and numbers, but a lot of information we could get from that. So I think we'll end there. That gives us a good starting point. I'm going to try to find a good video or exercise that you could practice this. But hopefully this was some good learning, and miss you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.